everybody. It's Friday night. Woohoo! I am excited. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Donna looks tired tonight. A little bit tired. If you can see her, she's like, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited. Well, we just stormed the, what do you say? Weathered the storm getting over here.
We stormed the castle.
Yes, we stormed the castle too.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's snowing and sleet and rain. It's all
and
like
it's
mixed
windy
together.
and
yeah,
it's
so
just nasty
our,
right now.
Our 30-second walk over here was brutal.
I know, like I'm
It
soaked.
was stinging. Yeah, like our coats and pants were soaked. Just getting over here. For all of you people out there.
So happy Friday!
Happy Friday. We got Daniel. Oh, Daniel Reed's in the house. What's up? West Virginia Skeptic Society. Shauna. We got John. We got Tiffany. We got Janice. Jay. We got more people coming in. Diane.
John Guy.
Awesome.
Is
John
watching.
Guy's in the house.
I see him watching.
Oh, I see. You see him watching? I don't see that. How do you?
It's on the Facebook. That's why I have my phone.
That's right. You're cheating. All right.
Diane.
So let's go over the rules because we need rules. And we have a guest tonight. I'm so excited.
Jay Kitten.
I'm so excited. We have a guest tonight.
Bob's
All right.
here.
So the rules are, number one is you are welcome to ask questions because that is what this show is about. It's asking questions about education, about learning, about knowing stuff and learning stuff and just having some fun. Which leads me in the rule number two is that I don't know everything. And neither does my guest. I mean, he knows a lot. And I can't wait to talk to him. But sometimes we just don't know the answer. But don't worry, I have my trusty Skeptical Help Bar notebook.
And that's got all the answers in it.
It does. I just have to find the page. I have an index. I don't know where anything is. So I'll write it down and we will get to it. Rule number three is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here. That means you can be in the chat room. You can discuss. You can debate. You can disagree with people. That's cool. But don't devolve into name calling and insults and dropping F-bombs. And
not in our chat.
Not in our chat.
Do it somewhere else.
Yeah, do it later. Email me. I'll take it then. Because, that way I can really get creative with my writing. So if you get out of line, Donna will boot you. And you'll be booted forever. You're banned for life and never, ever to enjoy the awesomeness that is the Skeptical Help Bar. Rule number 4 is that if you do have a question, please put a Q in front of it. And tonight we have a guest so that the first hour is me and the guest. And then the second hour is all up to you guys. It's all your questions. So feel free to put questions in the chat room. Donna will save them for the second hour.
Hey, Aaron.
Aaron's in the house.
He's in Vegas.
Ooh, he's in the casino house.
Yeah.
And rule number 5 is my favorite rule is drink up. Ooh. Oh, specialty.
Hello,
rocks.
Red Man.
All right, with that, I am going to put on my
Taryn's here.
Special guest frame. I'm going to bring in Dr. Dad. There he is. Hey, what's up?
Hi, Dr. Dad.
How you doing, Ron?
Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
It is good to see you. I love, we have to address the background because people are going to notice that there's a slight echo to your audio, and you have a very big background because you live in what?
I live in an old restored church.
Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah,
So,
I'm currently in the choir loft, and this is like the main area down here, and then this choir loft we turned it into a kitchen.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm at my kitchen table.
that is so cool. I love that. I love that idea. We've been wanting to do that forever.
Yeah, buy an old church.
Yeah, buy an old church and just redo it. And
it's still
just
possible.
Have fun. Yeah, we'll see. We might find one up here.
Yeah.
All right. So
I totally recommend it. It's awesome.
How long have you been there?
Been here about 3 years.
Okay.
We were looking at buying a house, and we started going around looking at all the different houses, and we were trying to be very sensible. We looked at all the houses close to the schools we were interested in and within our price range and all that sort of stuff. And
right,
all that. And then we found this one, which is the most inconvenient place, about almost an hour away from everything we need. But when we walked in, we were like, I cannot believe someone is selling this. So we immediately bought it.
That's awesome. Taryn, he's in Germany.
Yeah, you're in Germany, right?
I'm in Germany, yeah.
So full disclaimer for tonight, for everyone watching, please be patient with him because it's 2 a.m, right? To you?
It's 2 a.m. here.
2 a.m.
2 a.m.
So this gentleman
2 a.m.
has stayed up late for us just to be part of this show. So I truly appreciate it. So let's get into it. The first question I ask all guests is, what's your origin story? How did you get to where you are right now? Tell us about Dr. Dad.
So yeah, Dr. Dad is like my screen name or like an online handle, but I'm a child psychologist, and kind of over the course of my career, I've gotten more and more concerned, passionate, focused on teaching critical thinking skills to kids. It's become sort of like my really sort of like my mission
in life,
in my career, yeah. And so what happened was, I was thinking about this morning my time, and I'm sitting here and I know I'm going to get asked this question, so I'm kind of pondering this, and I'm talking about it with my son, who is now 12, and I was like, what is the origin story for Dr. Dad here? Like, how did I get started on all this? And he remembered the exact moment that it happened, and it blew me away. And it was, he and I were on a road trip to Mount St. Helens, and and I don't know if you've been to Mount St. Helens.
I have not.
No.
Okay. So if you take a road trip to Mount St. Helens or that area, the Pacific Northwest, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like drop dead gorgeous pine forests with mountains and rivers, gorgeous, but it's Bigfoot country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we had no idea. So we were driving through, and the next thing we know, we start seeing like Bigfoot signs roads crossing signs, and like bumper stickers everywhere, and Bigfoot chainsaw cut statues at the gas pumps, and it was Bigfoot was everywhere. And we stopped and we had lunch. And along the way, we had been playing this road trip game called Spot the Squatch. And you get a point for every Bigfoot themed thing you saw.
Oh, cool.
Completely crushed me. And then we got to this diner, and he asked me, "Is Bigfoot real?" And my first instinct was to say, yeah, he's real. And I know because he came to my campsite when I was your age and he told me the story, like that was my first instinct. But I kind of looked at him at that moment and I saw that, like, wait a second, he's being really earnest here. So I had this moment where I was like, wait a second, what should I do? Should I tell him? Should I just say it's a legend? Or should I, or should I go with it and pretend it's real? Like, what's the right thing here? And so I did the thing that all child psychologists do when we don't know what to do, which is I said, what do you think? And then I listened to him, and he, in his own kid-like way, he started working out like evidence for and evidence against. It wasn't organized, it wasn't like planned out, but I got to see him really like start some critical thinking. And at that point, I was absolutely loving it. It like lit a fire under me when I heard him do this. And I realized I want to help him get really good at that. And so from that point forward, I like studied all the literature and the science on this. I took a deep dive into all the research and psychology on critical thinking in kids. And I just made it like a sort of a full-time job outside of my full-time job to really understand this and to do what I could to promote it with kids.
Awesome. That's so
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
that you can see that spark.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Go
yeah,
and that's incredible. That's so cool. So from there, you really you dove into it. You said you did a deep dive, and you came up. Did you come up with the idea for the books, or did your son come up with the idea, or how did that come about? And tell us about the books.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea. I'm taking full credit.
I would too.
But actually, the first book was I wrote it as a gift for him because for his 10th birthday. So, like from 6 to 10, he and I had been doing what I called critical thinking field trips.
Okay.
We've been going to all these like spooky places. We've been going to like, haunted locations. We've been going to like paranormal stuff to see like Gravity Hill and things like that. We've been doing all these different fun things, and then we would just put on our skeptical brains and try to figure out like what's really going on here. And we would use these different tools that I'd been learning about, and then he felt in those moments like a real investigator. He was like really psyched about this. So I thought it would be fun to get him a book that had a kid investigator that would, be using these kinds of tools and that kind of stuff. But when I looked, I didn't find any. There were no books that really kind of fit the bill. And so I decided I would write him one. So that was the origin story of the first book.
That's cool.
I wrote that first book for him, and he was just over the moon, and he loved it. And then I started getting feedback from other kids. So it got published. Other kids started to send me like emails and stuff.
Nice.
And then now we're like, we're 3 deep in the series now, but there's like a fourth little like short story kind of on the web.
Right. Is that the Jackalopes one?
The Jackalope Uprising.
Yeah. I read that. So I got that because you can, and for everyone that's interested, I hope it's still like this, but you can get a free copy of that.
You can. Yeah, you can get a free copy.
Yeah. I got it because I was like, oh, let me check this out, because I saw you come up in my social media feed, my Facebook feed, a couple times. I'm like, who is this? Dr. Dad. Let me look into this guy. And I saw this. I'm like, all right, this kid's books, and I want to know more about how to help kids learn critical thinking. I really want to get into that a little bit more. So the book, and we didn't mention the book's name. It's called Beyond Belief.
Beyond Belief.
First is The Adventure Begins, right?
I just happen to have a copy.
Oh, who would have thought?
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Beyond Belief.
That's awesome.
That is Kenai, the little hero.
Kenai. Okay.
Kenai. And this is Uncle Freeman, who is kind of his guide, and who works for the Beyond Belief investigation organization.
Nice.
That's how he got where the title comes from.
Awesome. So yeah, I downloaded the story about the Jackalope Uprising, and I was like, the name caught me anyway. I was like, I gotta read this. I gotta read what kind of uprising is this, and I'm not going to give anything away, but it was a cool story. And what I really liked about it is, the Kenai, right? Kenai is the main the hero of the book, but he also has his parents involved too, and his uncle. People are involved. It's not just like when you have, like, I grew up in the Hardy Boys, and Nancy Drew, and they were the ones that always solved the mystery, and like they didn't really involve their parents or anything like this. But this is a family kind of book. It's a family friendly book. Yes,
yeah. And one of the things that I had in mind when I wrote the series was, I really want this to be the kind of book that parents read with their kids.
Right.
And it's full of all kinds of like references and pop culture stuff that I think the parents are going to get, but the kids probably won't unless the parents explain it. And a lot of humor that is kind of directed for the parents.
Yes.
And and I wanted the parents to kind of have a role in the book. And the idea was that if a parent could read the book with the kid, then they would start to have a shared language about what a skeptic is, what a critical thinker is, and what the tools are. And you can start using some of these concepts that are kind of difficult for kids to get, like confirmation bias and the halo effect and the availability heuristic and all this stuff that adults don't even really grasp. You can start to introduce these ideas to kids and even have like a touchstone, a story that these belong to, that the kids like.
I love it. I love it. And I want everyone to know in the chat room that I did put the link in. I put the link in for your Facebook page, your Dr. Dad Facebook page, but also your website where you can not only find all the information, it's kind of like your blog part where it shows the latest stuff that you do and you share other things, but you can also get that free book. So definitely check it out and buy the other ones because that's on my list. So I guess a big question is why bother? Why? And I'm just playing devil's advocate or just throwing this out here because I want to hear your take on this. Why bother teaching kids critical thinking skills?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's kind of the fundamental question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I guess it kind of goes to that bigger question, which is, why teach anyone critical thinking skills? Like, why are these things important?
Right.
And I would say that, right now we are in a very kind of a unique time. Not to get too like kind of high flying here. I know it's a bar, so I don't want to get too like cerebral. But but yeah, we're in a pretty unique time, and it's a time where there's a combination of things that are happening that make critical thinking more valuable than maybe ever, because we're swimming in a sea of misinformation.
Yeah, we are.
That is just it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, and it's actually having a huge effect on all of our lives, whether it comes to how we handle pandemics, to how we vote, not to get political, but also, how we manage, crises around the world and things like that. And it's not, I guess in some ways it might even be a little bit of a faith-based position because I can't really prove it because I don't know if the data's there, but I have an abiding belief that societies get better as people in those societies get better at critical thinking. I think, and I think the reverse is also true, that the worse people get at critical thinking and the more credulous they become, the worse off things get. And I think what's going on today is pretty good evidence of that. But for kids especially, what's really, really important is that kids now have access to the internet. There's this thing that
this interwebs.
It's called the web, and I've heard it's made of tubes, but the kids can get on there. And right now, there was a study done. It was a survey done by Microsoft some time back that showed that kids ages roughly around the age of 8, most children have unrestricted access to the internet. And so what that means is that they have lots of good information they can go to. There's, a lot of great things out there, but there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of hoaxes, a lot of things that are scammy and really, really not good for kids and for anybody. And they don't necessarily have the tools to be able to tell what's real and what's not. So they really do need those tools, and they need them earlier, and they need them with more clarity than ever before.
Right. And I mean, you're right. It touches on, when I think of critical thinking, like my biggest thing, especially now that most school districts give, Chromebooks. Yeah. When I talk about critical thinking and investigating and stuff, it usually has to do with some kind of paranormal belief or something like that, because that's what I do for the most part. But it's something that goes beyond that, well beyond that. It's every day. It's our everyday lives. Skepticism and thinking critically about all kinds of claims coming into you, whether it's health, or politics or financial reasons, you need to look at everything and break it down and understand what you're looking at. And if you just take things at face value, you could be in danger. You could put yourself in financial ruin. You could put yourself in personal danger if you don't make the right choices. And critical thinking helps people analyze and break it down and try to get to the best possible choice. So I think it's absolutely important. And you touched on it in the beginning when you said, like, why do we teach anyone this? And I agree with everything you said. And I would go even further saying to teach kids critical thinking, it gets them young. You know, there's stuff. I'm not trying to be mean or weird with that, but it gets them where you need it. You need to grow up with this, not get hit in the face when you're an adult already.
Right. Yeah. I think I want to, one of the things that I would like to do, if there was one sort of change I could make, it would be like, if, blue sky stuff here, but if there was one change I could make, I would make teaching critical thinking and healthy scientific skepticism. I would love that to be viewed in the culture as a family value, as something that you always teach your kids, and that it's just a normal thing that you teach your children, just like brushing their teeth and doing their chores and doing their homework and being kind to friends. All of that and critical thinking and skepticism, they all go together.
Right. I agree. I'm stealing a quote from your website because you addressed why teach critical thinking to kids. And one of the quotes that I liked is that parents cannot keep the crazy away from their kids. There is just too much. So the best thing you can do is prepare them for it by teaching them critical thinking skills. It might be one of the smartest things you can do as a parent to prepare your child for the world that they are living in. I love it. I love that because that's right. I mean, kids make choices every day just as much as adults make choices. And sometimes they're just as severe. So to get to them early, like when you had that conversation about Bigfoot with your son, I mean, how old was he at the time? Six. Yeah. Oh, I wish we could get that demographic. That would be great. But that's something he's going to take with him for the rest of his life. It's going to be incorporated into his worldview, and he's going to think about it every time something comes up that's mysterious or weird or just seems off, and I think that's awesome. So the books, you have 3 out right now. Are you working on a 4th?
So I've started a 4th.
Yes.
I've put it aside for the time being because I started another project, which is a parenting book. So it's kind of like you can think of these are the books for kids that help them to like get introduced to critical thinking skills with like a fun story, and parents can read that to kids. But then now I also have another book that's really sort of like a kind of a manual for parents on like, how to, what critical thinking skills to teach and like, in a very concrete way, how to start teaching these things through play and through activities and stuff like that.
That's great.
That's great. I like that.
That is really good. Yeah, because sometimes it's hard for parents too to like you want your kid to understand and to know about it, but if you don't know how to approach it, that's great that you're given ideas.
And that's the feedback that I get every time from most of the parents of the kids that will write me or that I have contact with. A lot of the parents will say, "Hey, I need some help with this.
Right.
I don't know where to get started, And, this is the kind of thing that maybe you had a class on critical thinking in college, but like, how do you translate this kind of stuff to a kid?
Right.
And parents don't really know where to get started or what specific skills are like appropriate for kids to learn.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait for this to come out.
Is this the book where you posted chapter 1?
Oh no, that's a different book.
Okay, you got a lot of projects going on.
I'm a man of many projects.
That's awesome. I like that.
So is Kenny.
Yeah.
House being one of them. But yeah, no, I have a book that I want to put together for dads called "What Did I Get Myself Into?" And and the first chapter is you're going to have to wipe someone else's butt, and I put that chapter up on the website on Father's Day.
I was scrolling through his page, and all I saw was you're gonna have to wipe someone's butt. I'm like, whoa! Let's go back and read that. I want to know what's going on here. That's cool. You have another project too. You have another book project, Pixel's Big Book of Feelings.
Yes.
What is that? That looks fun. I mean, the cover looks fun. So what is that? Fun.
So what that is it's it's hard for me to talk about this without really geeking out a little bit about psychology. We
are all geeks here.
Okay.
In our own way. So geek away.
So yeah, as a child psychologist, so like every day, one of the things that I'm doing is, so if you really want to picture like what I'm doing during the day, it's mostly like being down on the floor with Legos. That's most of my day. And so, I spend most of the day playing, but I'm working with kids who've got some pretty big feelings, like really, really big feelings, like really intense stuff they're dealing with. And over the years, like I've pulled together different kind of activities and different worksheets and books and things for kids. And what I've done is I've kind of found that over the years, there are books and activities that are really beautiful and friendly for kids and have like great characters and like interesting things, but they're not really evidence-based. And then there's the stuff that's evidence-based, but there's not really fun characters, and it's kind of black and white and dull, and it's not interesting for the kids. Yeah. So over the years, I've made my own worksheets and activities that are evidence-based in psychology. And what I did was I turned them into a book series called Pixel's Big Books. And they're books where, kids can go through by themselves, even like they're activity books where a kid can just go through, and they kind of go through the process of learning about their feelings and learning how to cope and things like that, step by step, using kind of the science of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, and then I noticed I was reading more, and I was totally stalking your page today. So let's just get that out. I was very interested in it because there was a lot of information there. But you also have the second book in that series, and it was Pixel's Big Book of Anxiety. And it's before I get to that one though, there was a quote on there, and I want to ask you about this because I didn't know what this was. You were talking about how one child with a pretty serious case of oppositional defiant disorder who came to therapy told you that he only comes to your office for Pixel. The book, which is great, and you referred to that as like the biggest compliment you could get for somebody with this oppositional defiant disorder. I don't know what that is. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so oppositional defiant disorder, or we'll call it ODD.
Okay.
So it's when people think about this, there's kind of a stereotype that kids with ODD are just like, kind of like mean or something, or like, disrespectful or something like that. But it's much more complicated than that. Kids with ODD, what one way to think about this, I'm going to geek out a little bit.
All right.
Okay. So one way to think about this is think about it the way you would think about like an anxiety disorder. So a person with an anxiety disorder, anxiety is a very natural, healthy thing. Everybody should have some anxiety some of the time. If you didn't, you wouldn't be able to cross the street safely, right? You need a little bit of vigilance to just operate in the world. But when you have an anxiety disorder, your anxiety is significantly higher and more intense than it should be for situations that are totally safe, right? So you have anxiety that is, keeping you from living a full and happy life.
Okay.
And you need to bring it back down to reality, so to speak. With oppositional defiant disorder, it's the same thing, but with that instinct to oppose people. So we all have an instinct to say no when somebody tells us what to do, right? We all want to be our own boss.
I don't have that problem. No,
right.
not at all.
Okay.
We all need to push back and stand up for ourselves sometimes. If we don't, we can't really operate in the world very well. We really do need to have boundaries and to tell people no, and to find out the reasons why we're being asked to do what we're being asked to do. And it's good to have that. We should all have some of that, right? But when that instinct or that part of your psychology gets ramped up and so intense, and it gets really out of control in situations where there's not really anyone that's bossing you or trying to control you, then it's oppositional defiant disorder, where you're being so oppositional and defiant that you literally can't function. You can't go to school. You can't stay in class. It's very hard to just get normal things done or have a normal life. So a kid with ODD, oftentimes, they want to oppose so much that it's very hard for them to give any praise at all or any positive feedback at all. So when this kid said he was like, I only come to your office for Pixel.
Yeah.
That was high praise. I was like, awesome. I know that this book series is working.
That's
Nice.
great.
So what kind of activities are we talking about in this book? What can you give us one example of, because I'm curious now. I want to buy the book just to see the activities, and I want to play with them.
Yeah. And so they're for kids ages 5 to 10. So they're kind of really simple and straightforward. And what happens is they go through steps. So the activities kind of gradually get more complex as you get into it. So in the very beginning, the activities are just about identifying feelings. So learning the names for feelings. And this is usually where kids have to start. They don't even know what name to give of their feelings.
Okay.
And then learning about more complex things like mixed feelings, like when you have set 2 or more feelings that are mixed together and are kind of complicated. And the activities is where we have a feelings blender, and the kids put different feelings in, and then they give a new name to the feelings. So they mix feelings.
Nice.
And then, it moves its way up all the way, getting more and more complicated, all the way to what we call the cognitive model. The cognitive model is just simply understanding that there is a connection between what you're thinking and how you're feeling and what your behavior is. So you can imagine it like a triangle, right? Where each part of the triangle is thinking, feeling, and doing, right?
Okay.
And if you imagine each of those is connected together, so if you change one, you change the other 2. And we teach children that model so that they learn that they can change the way that they think. And if they change the way that they think, they can change the way they feel. They can change what they do. But they have to go through a lot of steps to kind of get there. And in the book, the activities are just kind of guiding them to that place where they can finally kind of have that insight and then begin to think differently and behave differently.
That's great.
That's awesome. I really like that.
I need that.
I'm gonna.
I think everybody should have it.
Yeah.
Work on that triangle.
Yeah. And it's ages 5 to 10. So that's good for me. I'll be able to work out some of my feelings.
Exactly.
I have problems with that.
You do.
I do. Damn.
I'm your wife.
Damn.
Well, and just one other thing too, to kind of pull
Sure.
it back in, I really am a firm believer that that the critical thinking sort of mission and teaching kids about their feelings, that those two are connected together. That if you want kids to be really good critical thinkers, they also have to be good at working with their own emotions. It's really hard to be a good critical thinker if you're not good at identifying your own feelings and sort of learning from those and learning to work with them, right? Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but sometimes if an idea that I have is challenged and might turn out to be wrong, which almost never happens with me, but if that happens, I start to get like this sort of anxiety about it, and sometimes get
That's your
angry.
first reaction, yeah.
Yeah, and if I have that kind of reaction, you know, luckily all these children have taught me that I should name it and I should
Yeah,
start
yeah.
thinking about it and calm down. And when I do that, then I'm able to think more critically about what I'm hearing and what evidence I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of us weren't taught that at all.
Right.
Like when we grew up, we weren't taught how to deal with your feelings.
Nope.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, we grew up with people telling us,
get
"You'll be
over
fine.
it.
Shut up."
Yeah, it's not broken.
If you're crying, I'll give you something to cry for.
Exactly. I'll give you something to cry about.
That was the number one phrase I heard all the time, and it didn't matter what I was feeling. I didn't know what I was feeling because I was a kid, and nobody explained it to me,
and nobody helped us out. So yeah, we could probably all benefit from this book.
And I agree.
Yeah.
There's that anxiety. I don't know if it's anxiety or whatever it is. It's that when you suddenly think, oh, I might have been wrong about something. I get that a lot because a lot of my work is out in the public, and it's up there for scrutiny. And when somebody hits me with something like, you were wrong because of this and this and this, I'm like, holy crap. And I get,
and he's got to back up.
And then I got to stop and like, all right, wait, I'm not going to approach this angry. I'm not going to, go all red face.
Let
me calm down. Let me look at what they said, because maybe they are right. And I was wrong. And if I was wrong, I have to own it and fix it. So, but that's taken me many years to get to that point.
Right.
Usually I went in guns blazing, and very angry and shot back. But now.
But you had to teach yourself that.
If
we were taught that at 6 or 10 years old, it would have been easier for you to, get through that 10 years of your life being mad at everybody.
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm not mad at everybody now. Just a few. People. I want to circle back to your Beyond Belief books, because we didn't get. We talked about them a little bit, but not like they're focused on paranormal adventures, right?
Yeah.
And you have one that is what is it? Like zombies? Is there a zombie one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Book 2 is all about zombies. So, in fact, at the end of the Jackalope Uprising, the zombies make an appearance, and then if you go to book 2, you find out what happened at the end of the Jackalope Uprising. But so book 2 is called the Adventure of Zombie Island, and you know what?
No way. No way.
Wow.
It happens to be right here.
Wow.
But so I don't have a copy of book 3 though. But and then book 3 is The Phantom of High Castle, and that one is that, and that one's interesting because in that one, Kenai goes off on his very own investigation. And so, for the first time, he's kind of out on his own doing it without his parents.
Yeah.
But because I wanted that one to be for slightly older kids who kind of want to do stuff on their own,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was, the books are, the thing about them is I'm trying to make them so that they're full of all of these. If you are interested in skepticism and you understand a little bit about the different leaders in skepticism and the different kinds of movements and thought in skepticism, if you're an adult and you read this with your kid, you're going to be seeing all kinds of call outs to all kinds of things that you know about. And hopefully it'll kind of start that conversation with your kid. Like in book 1, Okay, wait. Okay, I'm going to give like a spoiler here. So you tell me if you can guess where I got this idea. So in book one, Kenai and Uncle Freeman. So Kenai is stuck with a family that's following a faith healing preacher. This faith healing preacher is named Reverend Twinkle, and Reverend Twinkle will heal you if you come to his services. And he's a mega church pastor. He will heal you. He will do all kinds of amazing things. And then Uncle Freeman shows up, sent there by Beyond Belief to find out what's going on with Reverend Twinkle. And he and Kenai discover that Reverend Twinkle has an earpiece.
Ah.
Oh, so
do you know where I got the idea with the reference?
So, yes, so the uncle is James Randi, and the pastor is, oh my goodness, I see it now. Oh my
I was gonna say it, but I was like, oh, because he looked.
And then the pastor is the reverend, that reverend guy. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Come on,
he busted them because they had the radio receiver, and they were picking up because the healer's wife was giving him the information on the prayer cards. Oh, now it's gonna kill me. It's gonna bother the hell out of me.
Pop off.
Yeah.
Pop off.
Yeah. Peter
Thank you, Jade Kitten.
Thank you, Jade Kitten. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Randy was there. I think Banachek was with him. And they picked up on the signal, the radio frequency they were using to transfer information from the wife to Peter Popoff and giving him all the information. That's how he was calling it out on stage. That's awesome that you based it on that. Oh, I have to order it now. Like, we
were ordering them anyway. I don't know about you.
Actually, I'm gonna talk to our librarian, Tim. I'm gonna tell him about these books and see if we can get them here.
I'm sure we can. Yeah, I think they belong here.
I think they should be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's talk offline. Maybe I can give a donation to the library there.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, we love donations, as long as it's 2 of each. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
So we can what we got like 15 minutes. We're good. So I wanted to touch on something because I thought it was interesting. It's not usually stuff that I talk about on this show, but on your website you had a post about the January insurrection that happened, and you called it a historic teaching moment for critical thinking.
Yeah,
and you talked about how it could be used. That it was certainly a bad thing, but how it can be used to teach kids a little critical thinking. And you had 3 steps. I had the 3 steps in front of me in case you need a refresher. But I was wondering if you could talk about why that was a good teaching moment for kids, and how to approach that with kids. Because our son is in college, so we can have more adult conversations with him. Yeah. And something like that happens on TV. If I had a small child, I don't know what I would say, because I'm a pretty blunt person. I just say what's on my mind, which gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes. But so can you elaborate on that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. When that happened, I had to figure out, like, how do I talk to my son about it? And at the time he was 10 years old, and so it was like this very, very frightening moment in history, and it was inescapable. It was in the news. The kids were talking about it at school, even here in Germany, right? Like the kids. He goes to a German school. It's all in German. But even those kids had heard about what was happening. And, they have phones and they're sharing like what's going on and they're seeing these things. And this is, even for kids, this is big news. and it was really scary. And so I had to think about how do I approach this, and how do I help him understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first thing I'm a child psychologist, so everything looks, how they say, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Everything
Yeah.
For me, everything looks like a feeling, right? So the first thing that I do is I want to check in with him about, what have you heard? What have you heard about this? And also, how do you feel about this? What's going on for you? And, he was scared. He was scared. It was a scary thing. And he was, the things that he had heard were actually pretty solid things. He hadn't heard anything really weird or wild. So I didn't have to do a lot of cleanup on aisle 7, like it was most of what he had heard had actually been stuff that actually occurred.
Okay.
But a lot of parents that I work with, like in therapy, the families I work with at that time, some of them had kids who had heard all kinds of wild stuff, like, that the government was like, that the government had been taken over, or that America was over, or something like that,
Oh, wow.
And so some of them had heard some pretty wild stuff, and they were really genuinely afraid, and they didn't know exactly how to, the parents didn't know how to talk to their kids about this. So the first thing is to figure out, like, what have they heard,
Right.
and then help them to kind of get the information correct. And then how do they feel about it? Help them manage the stress. Just let them know that you're there to cope, help them cope, and that you're there to, you'll keep them safe. Just give them that reassurance. Right. And then, lastly, this historic moment for teaching critical thinking. I believe that a lot of the people that were there sincerely believed in what they were doing. They sincerely believed it. These weren't people that were just there to get rowdy and have fun. They actually thought that they were, doing something that was correct. And they believed that because of misinformation, and because of they didn't think critically about what they were reading and what they were hearing, and they were not using the tools of reason and skepticism and applying it, and they were really falling for cognitive biases in a way that was literally, for us, kind of historic. Mm-hmm. So the lesson that I took away from it, and that I taught my kid, was that if you believe bad things, you are more likely to do bad things. So it's really important that you focus on, trying to believe things that are true and correct, and so that your behavior is going to be true and correct.
Right. It's good. That's good. Yeah. I mean, that was a scary thing. And yeah, I'm glad my son was older, because we could actually talk straight with him, if questions came up. But little kids are hard, man. I remember.
Yeah, they ask questions. They just shoot them at you.
They shoot them at you. I'm like, I don't know. But it's always good. Oh, Bob, got a statement in regards to what you were saying on talking with kids about 9/11. Unfortunately, schools here in the U.S. are all about follow the curriculum, to stay on their timelines, to teach to the state standardized test, and schools cannot help debunk some of the rumors surrounding January 6th. Yeah.
He meant January 6th, not 9/11.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That sucks. So
that does suck.
I mean, for reading that, I would think that would just be a day where the teachers should just stop regular class and say, all right, let's have a discussion.
Yeah.
Let's clear it out. Let's separate the fact from the fiction, and let's reassure what's going on here. And I mean,
this is what's wrong with the school system,
I have
Bob.
a lot of problems. And I brought it up before. I brought it up, just some of the things we were taught in school just seem like nonsense to me once in a while. Not everything, but life skills are not taught. Like, I never learned to check I've never learned to balance a checkbook. Never did it. I learned afterwards. I sucked at it. I was horrible at it, but I never learned that in school. I didn't learn how to build my credit. I didn't learn how to a budget, keep a budget or anything that is used in life. I was never taught critical thinking. I was never taught any of this stuff. I mean, the most interaction we've had on the level of what we're talking about here with like stopping the class or not stopping the class to talk about an event was when the Challenger exploded.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of the same thing. Yeah.
Because we were all watching it live when it happened.
Yeah. They brought it in. They brought the TV in. We watched
everybody was excited.
The big TV cart, watching it, and it blew up, and
everybody
and they just put the TV out in the hallway, and that's it. Like they didn't talk about it.
I have the same exact experience. When I was a kid and we were watching it in school, we were watching the Challenger go. It blew up live on TV.
Yep.
And the person that was our teacher, that was the teacher at the time for me, he was a history teacher, and he was like the least comfortable with feelings. and you could see like he was just, stunned, did not know what to do or say. He did just like literally just put the TV out in the hallway. And I don't even remember what happened after that, but I don't think we talked about it until like the next day or a little later on. But yeah, teachers, it really is frustrating, I think, for teachers, because what they want to do, what a lot of teachers want to do, is they want to have these discussions, and they want kids to, really kind of mix it up and start sharing ideas and to start thinking critically and have that Socratic dialogue and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And kids want that too.
Right.
And, it's really frustrating when they are unable to do it because they have all of these requirements that they have to meet, and they're unable to really do the job that they kind of dreamed of doing. Exactly. My mother-in-law is a teacher, and she's like semi-retired now. She like trains other teachers, and she's phenomenal at her job. And one of the things that, she always emphasizes is like, really meeting kids where they're at and trying to adopt what you're doing to meet their needs. And I think most teachers, want to do that, but the curriculum and the standards kind of get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
It is
really sad that, the schools can't see that and develop their curriculum
in accordance with what's needed. Yeah, I get it. And I wish, I always thought like the, and I'm probably going to get crap from the sports fans, but I always thought the salaries should be swapped between sports figures and actors and then teachers. Because I think teachers are the ones that pave the way of the future. Yeah. They're the ones that are training the future generations, and they should have all the expense or the budget that they need. Whereas sports people go out, they play a game, they have fun, they play the game, and then they get paid millions and millions. And I don't think that's fair. And it's probably an unpopular opinion with any sports fans out there, but I don't care. I don't like sports.
I'm a sports fan, and I agree with that. I mean, they can still get paid a decent amount of money, and some of that go to teachers.
Right.
It doesn't have to, you don't have to get paid millions of dollars.
And healthcare workers, I agree, Tiffany. Yeah, healthcare workers should. I mean, teachers keep you going; they train the future, and then healthcare workers keep us alive. So, big deal jobs. All right. We got a couple minutes before the break. I wanted to touch on something because I thought it was interesting. You posted about cognitive dissonance, and you went into the history of where that term came from. And I found it fascinating because I didn't know the first part of it about Leon Festinger. Okay. So if you could touch on that a little bit. I did know about some of the examples like Harold Camping, because Harold Camping was the end of the world guy, we had parties.
Oh yes, yes.
We had
so many of them.
Yeah,
like 3 or 4.
3 end of the world parties based on his predictions.
We did.
But then it went into a newspaper article by Dorothy Martin, which as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh, I think I know about that work. I think I
know cool
book. So could you tell us a little bit about Festinger and where the term cognitive dissonance came from?
Sure. Oh man, I'm gonna really geek out now.
Yeah. I love that.
So this is, I think this is hands down one of the coolest stories in psychology, like ever. So Leon Festinger was a social psychologist, and he had this idea that, well, he was also a student of history, right? So it was like one of his little pastimes was he studied history, and he had noticed that there was this pattern in history where, throughout history, there had been these like apocalyptic predictions. And the weird thing was every time the apocalyptic prediction came and went and failed, the movement grew. So there were all of these instances throughout history where the movements actually took off after the prediction failed. And he was trying to make sense of like, why was that occurring? This is definitely a quirk of human psychology, but what is it? We don't really have a good explanation for why this is happening. And so he developed this theory that he called cognitive dissonance. And the theory was basically that when you have, and I'm going to kind of butcher the theory kind of off the top of my head, but the theory is basically that when you have committed to a belief, and that belief is something that you have committed to with your resources and with your like social commitment. So you've committed to others that this belief is true. And you have really invested your identity in this belief, that when you are provided evidence that that belief is incorrect, it will cause so much distress to you that you will reject the evidence and cling even more to the belief. You will actually, you will do what you can to hold that belief even more than you would if it hadn't been disconfirmed. Right. And so that was his idea. And, like a lot of ideas in psychology, it's a pretty cool idea, but, there wasn't any proof. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of ideas in psychology that we have floating around that we can't really prove, or we don't really have evidence for. It's just sort of like, that seems kind of neat. It's plausible. But he had this idea, and then this opportunity popped up to actually test it. And the opportunity was that there was this little cult in Chicago they called themselves the Seekers. And they made a prediction that the world was going to end. I can't remember the date, but it was a specific date. It was like
date. May something. It was in May, I think. Wasn't it?
1950s.
1953, I think.
This was, okay. I was thinking of the last time.
I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
December 21st, 1954.
54.
Yeah.
So they had this really specific date, and they were publicly committing to it. So this lady, Dorothy Martin, had published this in the local paper in Chicago. And she had some real serious followers. These were like professors and doctors and stuff, and they had like sold all their stuff, and they were getting ready. And they believed that because of their commitment to this, what was going to happen was that on that night, a flying saucer was going to come down and
I like how you paused.
Pick them up.
You're like, flying saucer.
and it was going to fly them away to the planet that they were from. And I can't remember the name. The planet had a cool name. It was actually like, I can't remember it, but every detail of this is like even better than the last. Yeah. But so the flying saucer would come, they would be flown away to safety, and the world would end. And it would happen on this very specific date. And so what Festinger did, and this is where I have so much respect for him, because this is such a gutsy move, was he like immediately mobilized all of his grad students, and he joined forces with 2 other psychologists, and they infiltrated the cult. They basically got their psychologist students who wanted to do this to go in and be part of the cult, and to sit in on their overnight seances and all this stuff where they were communing with the aliens, and basically just record what happened all the way up to the final night. They got all the way to the final night, and they were all gathered in the living room of Dorothy Martin's home, and the clock struck midnight or whatever, and the whole place went silent. And it was like, this was it. This was go time. Because if the theory was right, then what should happen is the aliens don't show up, and everybody commits even more to Dorothy Martin and to her movement. If the theory's incorrect, then they're all going to say, hey, you scammed us, and they're all going to go back to their day jobs. And what happened was they all doubled down, they committed even more, and they found a way to just keep believing despite all the evidence in front of them. And in this case, all the evidence is the whole world still existed. So it was kind of the whole story is really cool. And I love the fact that the theory was proven to be true. Well, that might be strong. It was shown that it's very likely a good explanation for what happened. And then further on, like, it keeps getting tested as time goes on, and people find that it's pretty robust. It shows a lot of strength as a theory.
That it's an incredible story. And on a side note, I mean, if anyone can pick up this book, When Prophecy Fails, it's great. I read through it a couple of years ago. I read through it. So as soon as I started reading that, and the newspaper article came up, I was like, oh, wait, that sounds familiar. Oh, I know that story. I know it. That's awesome. It really is fascinating to see it from their point of view of infiltrating that group and getting in there and all the details. I mean, it's really fascinating. It's a good read.
Yeah, so, they actually, well, as a side note, I actually lived not that far from Dorothy Martin's house when I was a student in Chicago. And I didn't know. I was walking by this place all the time, and I didn't know that this was like ground zero for like one of psychology's coolest experiments. And then I found out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I keep going by it all the time, like looking, I'm not trying not to be stalkerish, but it's like, it's a neat place. And it was amazing. And there are all these little places like that in Chicago when I lived there. There were all kinds of cool places that were historic that, there's no like monument out front or anything like that. Right. But if you know where they're at and you know what to look for, you can find them.
Yeah, that's cool. That'll be on our bucket list.
Yeah, when we head out there. We haven't been to Chicago yet. Yeah.
And I have no shame. I will get out and go right.
And you'll knock on the door.
Selfie.
Yeah.
This is the house of the crazy lady. Because they had ripped off all the metal on their clothes and everything, because that wasn't supposed to be on the spaceship. Like, they went nuts trying to get this done, and nothing happened. And like, I would love to be there at that moment. Like any of these cults, I'd like to be there just at that moment, as long as it's not a cult that gets blown up. Or I don't poison or anything like that. But to see that moment, just be like, yeah, nothing happened. What's up?
Yeah.
All right. So we are at our break. We're at the pee break. So for us, we are going to we're going to take a 3.5 minute break. For everyone watching, you're welcome to empty your bladders and fill your cup. Not with the same stuff. But if you have questions, this is the time to get them in there. We have some in the queue already, so I can't wait to see what people have asked. If you have any other questions, get them in there, and Donna will save them. And so let me set us up. Let me get the video ready, and I will see you back here Let me see. Up, where is it? Up. Oh crap! Did I get rid of it?
Can't find it.
Oh, there it is. No. I will see you in a couple minutes from now. All right.
Good job.
We are back. How you doing? Good? Feeling good?
Good. Yes.
Been a great show so far. I'm loving it. I'm loving all the information. All right.
It's very informative.
Yeah, it's very good. I love this kind of show, where we can focus a little bit more on kids, and get that critical thinking into them, because they need it.
They do.
I'm getting down with my bad self. Thanks. I had to actually change it because last week I had put in like a rocking out kind of thing, and I thought it was great. I got it from software, but I found out that it's copyrighted, and I got a warning. I didn't get a strike. I got a warning saying this is copyrighted. You can't monetize your channel, which I don't. So it doesn't matter. But I like to be free and clear. So I was like, all right, let me get something a little bit more, no copyright, so I can use it. All right, so we got some questions. Molasses. What is in Kenny's specialty tonight? Rum? A little bit of rum? A little bit. That's a good question. I like that question. All right. Moving on. What in the world brought you to Germany?
Yes. So I'm in Germany. I work for the American military, actually. Yeah. So I work at a hospital that serves the families of the American soldiers here in the Navy.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's cool. How long have you been in Germany?
For about 3 years. Before this, we were living kind of in the Seattle area.
Okay.
And, I've been working in different military hospitals for years. So we've been traveling kind of all over, working in different places. But I love working with the military kids because, they have their own unique, like stressful
Yeah.
situations.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And they need a lot of help. And, it's cool to be like part of a system that's helping them out.
That's awesome, dude. And it's nice that it shows that you're passionate about it, and that's cool. Real quick question, because you had mentioned that your son goes to a school and it's all German. So is your son fluent in German?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Are you fluent in German?
Hell no.
Well, that's good. I took German in high school. I took 2 years and I can't do anything.
You can't even count?
I can count. If I try, I can count to 20. I think.
Wow, that's further.
But that's about it. Like that's all I got out of 2 years of taking German in high school, which has not served me at all. So,
oh well. Yeah, we moved here 3 years ago. I'm embarrassed because we moved here 3 years ago. My son is fluent in German. My wife isn't fluent, but she's really good. She gets along really well in German. She's a stand-up comic. So
oh my gosh.
She does shows all around Europe. And so she has to kind of negotiate and stuff with venues, sometimes in German. Wow. And they're both like, we'll go out to a restaurant and they're just conversing with the waiter. And I'm like pointing at the menu items like.
You're in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got? Since you are a psychologist, who are some of the other modern psychologists that you hold in high regards? Thanks, Bob.
Ooh, well, that's a really good question. I think that is a really tough question. Like I'm gonna like fanboy out a little bit here. Like, so the person that is, in terms of like this topic, critical thinking and children's thinking, the person that just inspires me the most, who I think has probably the best insight into children's thinking, is Alison Gopnik, Dr. Gopnik. She's written a series of books for parents and for academics, and she wrote I think she wrote something like The Philosopher in the Crib and The Gardener and the Carpenter and a few others. But she and her sort of colleagues really did, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, really revolutionized the way we think about children's ability to think critically. She showed that children are able to think in a way that's more flexible, and they're able to change their minds faster and adopt to new evidence better than adults. And she actually got, I think, a big award from the National Science Foundation for what she did. And it really definitely changed the way that I look at children's thinking. So I could kind of gush about her and her work for quite a while.
So you think, I guess in your opinion, or do you think that kids adapt better to critical thinking than adults do because they don't have as many filters and our biases that are ingrained in them already?
It's it's tricky to say. And the reason I say it's tricky to say is because we don't have the research on it is really limited. So my gut tells me yes, that's the case. But when we look at the research on it, it's still so incomplete. We're still kind of running on, when we think about like how we think about kids thinking, the operating software, so to speak, for how we think about this goes back to like the 1940s. Like we really have a very antiquated way of looking at children's thinking. And I mean, people that are real geeks about this and keep up on it, they've sort of adopted these newer ideas that Gopnik and others have promoted, that, you know, children are better at critical thinking and skepticism, and they're good at reason, and they're very flexible, and they have fewer biases. And, you know, she really promoted that idea. But the problem is that within all of these fields of study, like developmental psychology and education, and even like developmental pediatrics and all those kinds of things, those are kind of running on assumptions that really go all the way back to Jean Piaget. I'm really geeking out here, but they go way back, and some of those assumptions that he made. And he's a sweetheart of a guy. I don't want to like cast any aspersions on him. He's like one of my favorites. But he had assumptions kind of built into his model of how children think that really leads us to believe that children aren't really fully capable of self-reflection and critical thinking until roughly around the age of 11 or 12, when they get into what he called the formal operational stage. So he had this idea that, you know, it comes online gradually, and that it's a little bit later, once they hit sort of those tween years, when they start to be able to think critically. And that assumption kind of got built into a lot of how people view children in the education system, and I think in a lot of academia too. And that's led to this lack of research. There's like a very small sliver of research on how children are able to reason and think critically at these very young ages.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I think they're getting better at it too, because of all the resources that they have that we didn't have growing up.
Yeah. I mean,
they're growing up a lot faster.
Yeah. Holy crap. I mean,
we were still skinning our knees on our bikes when we were 14.
I was riding my Huffy bike to the playground so I could jump dirt ramps.
I know,
how high I could go before I would fall off. That was my like 12, 13 years, 14-year-old. Yeah. Now kids are on their phones all day. And all right. Moving on. John Guy, what's up, John? Do your books cover the literature on teaching critical thinking to children, or do they mainly focus on how to do so?
So yeah, the kids' books. So these kinds of books, they don't really cover the literature or anything like that. You know, they're just like fun stories. I mean, I think one of the people that reviewed it, they described the stories as being like Ghost Adventures meets the Goonies, like that kind of thing, or maybe like Scooby-Doo, something like that. But I am working on this parenting book, and the parenting book is going to actually get into the research. So so that, you know, if a parent, I just have this abiding belief that parents should be able to check my homework. So if they look at it and they read and they're reading it and I say, hey, you know, do X, Y, and Z to teach this skill, they should be able to have citations. They should be able to look it up themselves. They should be able to check and make sure that I'm not just making stuff up. And so it will have all of that in the parenting book. If I can get anyone interested in publishing it, I pitched it. I don't know. I didn't tell this story. I pitched it to about 24 people, agents and stuff. And this was at the beginning of the pandemic, even before then, I think. And I was pitching it to all these people, And they all kept saying, it's a great idea. We believe in it, but no one will buy this book. No one would be interested in this book. Parents aren't interested in this kind of thing.
I disagree.
And they all just kept saying it won't sell, it won't sell. And then, so I've been working on the book, and last year, a book with the exact same title I was working on came out, and it became a bestseller.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. It's actually a good book too. I bought it. It's How to Raise Critical Thinkers. So it's out there. It's a good book. Definitely go check it out. I'm going to write something that's even better because she inspired.
Good. We'll be waiting for it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally disagree with the publishers, because I would have loved to have had a book like that. To help me out, because nobody knows what they're doing.
Especially being a young parent.
You're young parents. You're basically kids yourselves sometimes, and like you're handed this little living being. It's like, here, go home.
Scariest day of your life.
Yeah. Here,
go
protect this.
Greatest and scariest day ever. So yeah, I mean, I would love to have something like that. And especially someone like me, I mean, I see something with critical thinking and all that. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Let's see what this is. What can I pick up from this? What tips and tricks I can get that I can help and pass along. I love that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
keep going, man. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because we'll buy a copy.
Oh, definitely.
That's one sale. You have one pre-sale.
You have
already.
2. You already have somebody else in the chat going for it. He's not even a parent.
Well, some of us are just big kids. We need it for ourselves. All right, Bob's got a question. I am in the process of collecting and reading more psychology books. Do you have any books beyond the kids' book for child psychology? I am looking into a master's in psych and would like to read more. If not, do you have any suggested reading in child psychology?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it kind of depends on how deep you want to get with, so if you want to get back to like original source material, I think it would be, it's not necessarily child psychology, but I think it's really fun to go and read the book Cognitive Psychology by Aaron Beck, which was written back in the 1970s, I think. And that really started the whole, what we now call CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. That really kicked off that movement. And now that's kind of the gold standard for therapy, CBT. But it all kind of goes back to that original publication. And actually, what's funny is a lot of people don't read it, but it's really a great book. It's really insightful, and Aaron Beck is actually a pretty good writer, so it's really cool. Yeah, it helps. And then as far as children's psychology, again, I'm going to kind of fanboy out a little bit, but anything by Alison Gopnik, I think she really contributed a lot to our modern understanding of children's thinking.
Awesome. I brought her up and I was looking at, I think I have at least one of these books. She's got quite a few. So
who, Aaron Beck?
Alison Gopnik. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, all right.
Bob says thank you very much.
Bob said thank you. And for everyone that's wondering, he does say, I have my notebook with me, so thank you for answering that question. I'm parked for those concerned. He's driving right now and it pulled over so he can write the notes down. That's awesome. Good job, Bob.
Probably picking up a kid.
All right. Next question. We got John Guy. Quote, critical thinking is more important now than maybe ever. I think this could be said for any period of time. What if critical thinking swept the world 2,000 years ago and everyone adopted a skeptical approach to life? Wouldn't we have avoided thousands of years of unnecessary wars, suffering, the stifling of scientific advancement, and so on? Ooh, interesting.
Good question.
Wow, heck yeah.
I'm right.
I'm all on board with that. I think, I'm a firm believer that that the more critical thinking there is, the better off everyone is. and that the less people are thinking critically and skeptically, the worse off we all get. I really do think it's
Right.
that simple. And so the more we can promote it and just say that it's something that is like I said before, that this is a family value. This is part of like what makes people strong and healthy in the world. If we can start to orient ourselves around that idea and teach our kids that, then I think we'll all be a lot better off. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that.
I agree. I think we would be so far ahead if we had developed critical thinking skills, taught it, made it part of our lives so long ago, because we would bypass, I think, so much. I think we would bypass a lot of prejudices and racism and so much, I think, should be able to be pushed aside and overcome. I think I'm saying this right. I'm hope I'm saying this right. Overcome, because if you think about it, if you really critically think about something, you realize like how silly something is, or hating someone for the way they look, or what they want to, how they want to dress, or their skin color. It's ridiculous, And if we would get past that, we would be so far advanced.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you just if you were to just go, like, if you take a history book and you just randomly open to a page and you look at an event in history, like a catastrophe of some kind, I think the odds are very good that you're going to find an event that was made worse by magical thinking. You're going to find something that it was either caused or made worse by people just believing what they were told, not really thinking things through, not understanding their own biases, not really understanding principles of critical thinking. And of course, in hindsight's 2020, right? So we want everybody to have critical thinking skills all through history, but a lot of history was, in a way, the slow buildup and accretion and development of these skills, right? So you think about all of these different developments in philosophy, all these different developments in logic and science and things like that. We had to find those things kind of in the dark, but as we did and we found them, it just, for those who adopt it and understand those things, it just lights everything up. You're suddenly able to be free, and we just need to have more of that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing to say on that. That you got it. Awesome. All right, next question. JD, what's up, buddy? If you've already addressed this, I apologize. As a parent of a 5-year-old, are there any fun activities or things like that to encourage critical thinking? He's got a couple books that are available for one.
Yeah, you could read the books together. Obviously, I could pitch that, but I think the first go-to in when it comes to teaching critical thinking to kids is play. Play is like the laboratory where kids are going to try out new ideas and do things, where they're going to think in different ways. And so it's actually the perfect place to begin teaching critical thinking skills. And the easiest way to do that is to model them. So what I would encourage parents to do is just, when you play with your kids, just, ask Socratic questions. If they propose an idea or something, go with it and test it and see what happens. If they say that there's treasure buried in the backyard, unless you have like a perfectly manicured lawn.
Dig up the backyard.
Yeah.
Right.
But, let's go digging, right? Let's go find it. And then if it doesn't show up, I wonder why. And, you can begin to model those critical thinking skills, and play is the perfect place to do that. It's actually, I think of it as like the laboratory where kids are working out new behaviors and new ways of thinking and being.
Awesome.
That's so cool because, I go back to when we were watching our son grow up, Connor, and he loved trains, and he would build his own track. Like we bought him, all the Thomas trains and the wooden track, and he would figure out how to get it all to match. He would put in the mountains and the bridges and everything.
cool.
And I mean, he did that day in and day out, all day long, all over the floor, everywhere.
Entire floor.
Living room, dining room, it didn't matter.
Just went everywhere.
Out on the back deck. But to watch his little brain while he was thinking, oh my gosh. It was just amazing to me to watch this little person put together this whole track all by himself.
Isn't that fun?
Good. All right. Next question.
Yep.
All right. Daniel Reed. What's up, buddy? What theoretical framework do you favor? CBT, REBT?
I think you already answered this, but.
This is, so for those who aren't familiar.
I don't know what these mean except for the first one.
So CBT stands for cognitive behavior therapy. REBT stands for rational emotive behavior therapy, if I'm right. And ACT stands for acceptance and commitment therapy. I'm a big fan of CBT, and partly, I mean, that might be biases because that's what I was trained in. Rational emotive therapy is got a lot of similarities to CBT. I kind of think of them as like pretty close cousins. There's some differences in the theory, but like what you're doing is really similar. And then with acceptance and commitment therapy, the evidence is really strong that it works really well. But there are some components of it that I'm not fully comfortable with. So I don't use it because I'm not sure. And also I work with kids, and ACT doesn't really work with kids. So I don't really do it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Good question.
Next question. Jade Kitten. Have you ever held a sermon at your house? Please do it and stream it.
Yes, this is from the Church of Crouch.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, we haven't done anything like that. Actually, it's funny though. This church has been here since the 1920s, and we've actually had people come who, either went here for services when they were little kids, or they got married here, or things like that. So we'll have people come to visit the church just to see the church, and they'll come and they'll take a look and see what we've done with it. And so it's actually a lot of fun living in kind of a place that has some historical connection to the community, because then you sort of automatically get kind of connected to people, and it's been really fun for us.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
The Church of Biddle would have sermons every week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Come on out. That's a tax break. Are you kidding me? I would totally claim that. Be like, yep, Church of Biddle. Here we go.
Let's teach critical thinking.
We're gonna have. This is our once a week congregation.
There you go.
Skeptical Help Bar. We qualify. I think there's only like one or two other things I have need to qualify. We can be a church. Make some money.
We probably could.
That's how you make a lot of money. You start a church. Jay's got a question. I do a children's magic show. Is this a good vehicle to show critical thinking?
Absolutely.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. And also, how cool is that? Like, that is like so much fun. Like, again, going back to the idea of play, like when children are in that, they kind of get into their little play brain, right? When they get into their play brain, learning is easy. Like when they're in that state of mind where they're playing and they're having fun, then suddenly like new ideas, new ways of thinking, even self-reflection, all of those things start to just become really easy for them. So if you're doing a magic show, it's really cool because you're getting them into that mode where they're able to learn because they're having such a good time and they're loving what's happening and they're laughing, they're smiling, and they're oohing and awing probably. And one of the things that you can do is, if you're interested in teaching critical thinking, is, to give them opportunities to debunk your tricks, to see, can they actually figure out how you did it? Right. And, maybe even have like a little prize for whoever figures it out. Like, if they can figure out how you do something, maybe they get like a magician's wand or something, that
Right,
you
right.
can come up with some ideas to do that. And you can also guide them along in helping them to figure out how it's done by using like Socratic questions, like, well, where would the matchstick go? Those kinds of things. What are the possibilities? Have them think
Oh
through the
my gosh,
different
that would be so
alternatives.
cool.
And then and you can get them to start thinking through things like that, and then reward them for their critical thinking, and when they're in that perfect place to do it. So I'm
Right.
absolutely for that. I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I like that. I
Mhm.
like that a lot. Yeah. And then Jay, didn't we send Jay a keychain? Wasn't he the one that won?
Yes, yes.
Jay, did you get your keychain? I hope so. Let me know.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. John Guy. What's up, John?
It's kind of like a follow-up to what we were just talking about.
If I wanted to dive into the research on teaching critical thinking to children, where should I begin?
Oh, that is a good question.
You can buy
some books. Yeah, buy some books.
I
I would start there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, that's interesting. I think one of the things that I probably should do is, this gives me an idea, is that I should create maybe a blog post on my website where I list a bunch of citations for people that are interested in this and want to study it for themselves.
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I would say is that, so when I dived into the literature and I got interested in this, one of the things that I ran into, it was it was a serious problem then, and it's a serious problem now, is that there's not a lot of actual research with young kids on critical thinking. Most of the research on critical thinking is done with college kids.
Mm.
Right. So you have a bunch of different like articles out there that are, saying, well, critical thinking can be taught if you do it this way. And then you look at the sample, and the sample is all, 18 to 23-year-olds.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to say whether that actually applies to kids. There are a few studies that do that, but that look at young kids, but they're mostly in the developmental psychology literature. And again, Alison Gopnik would be the go-to, and like her whole cadre. If you get plugged into her and what she's doing, then you're going to learn about Lagar and others who are doing similar things, and you'll learn about their research and you'll find out more.
Awesome.
He had here's this from John.
Research I know about is P4C, philosophy for children. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either, but it sounds intriguing. I'd like to find out more about that.
Ooh, what is that?
There we go. Oh, we're gonna learn today. Let's look that up.
Let's look it up. P4C.
And John Guy says, "Thank you very much."
So, philosophy for children. Oh, there's a website. Welcome to. Let me real quick. I'll share the screen so we can look at it together. That's it. There we go. So this says philosophy for children is a wonderful way of bringing teachers and children together to discuss things that matter. It has many benefits for both groups, but there aren't enough hours in a day to discover new materials, produce resources and lesson plans, and invent new activities to keep you and your pupils interested. That's why we have done a lot of work for you by publishing ideas, lesson plans, resources, and recommendations online. So it looks like
this is so cool.
I am going to put this in the chat room for us all to look at. I'll send it to you too in Messenger, so you can look at it later if you want to.
Thank you to whoever posted that.
That was John
awesome.
Guy.
John, yeah.
Awesome, John.
Awesome.
Yeah, I hope you get into that, John. That'd be really cool.
That's cool. All right, there you go. I just sent it to you too, so you can look at that. And I'm going to look at that. I'm keeping that up on the screen so I can look at that a little bit. Daniel Reed's got a question. Did you ever read anything about the connection between I don't know how to say that.
Stoicism
and CBT. Donald Robertson.
I have not. I Yeah, like although I have read a little bit about Stoicism, and I can definitely see the kind of the connection there because the idea behind Stoicism is basically I'm probably going to get this wrong. So, but I think the basic idea behind Stoicism is that, you know, a lot of times you can't change your conditions or situation in life. So the one thing you do have control over is how you react to it and think about it.
Okay.
And so you focus on, you know, getting very disciplined about how you respond to situations. And yeah, I can definitely see a connection with CBT there. I haven't really thought about it, and I haven't read much about that.
Okay. Are we good on questions?
We are.
I think we're at the end here for questions. If anyone's got some questions, pop them in now. But
Jay did get his keychain, by the way.
Oh, I did get the. Oh, good. Thanks so much for stickers. I love everything. Awesome. Thanks for the advice for magic shows. I will add those ideas to my show. Awesome.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Thanks,
I love that.
And John Guy says he wants to rewrite his book as a children's book.
Oh.
So that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. John Guy has an excellent book. And it's I have a copy back here. But yeah, it's very involved. And it would be cool if he could rewrite it as a children's book. That would be really, really cool. I like that. That would be interesting. All right. So if people want to find you, we're at the end here. So again, if there's any last minute questions that pop in,
yeah, I'll let you know.
We'll get to it. But I put your website in the chat room, and I love the books. I love the books. I haven't read them yet. I've read the Rise of the Jackalope Uprising.
Yeah,
and I love that. And I'm gonna order the other books because I just want to read them myself and see what they're about. Because I love adventures like that. Like I said, I mean, I grew up on Scooby-Doo. Because that was, I mean, the Scooby-Doo crew.
Scooby-Doo.
That's it, man. I mean, they solved the mysteries. Yeah. But I also grew up on the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. I still have several of the books on my shelves over here. Grew up with them. I love those kind of mysteries. And I think these books, at least the Uprising, gives me ideas. You know, I can help incorporate these ideas because I do investigate paranormal stuff. And I investigate ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoot. So it helps me, I guess, more so with the language, you know, because when I talk to kids in a classroom, I always have to be aware of my language, you know, not that I'm cursing or dropping F-bombs. I don't want anyone to get the idea. It's just that I don't want to talk over their heads. And honestly, I don't know how to sometimes, you know, I see a bunch of kids and I'm like, all right, do I talk about, you know, like logical fallacies? Do I talk about this? Will they understand what I'm talking about? How do you overcome that? That's my question. How do I talk to kids?
So yeah, that's
wait for the parents' book. Boom.
Plugged.
Yeah. So the thing that I would emphasize is you've already got 90% of everything you need because you're talking about ghosts and Bigfoot and aliens and everything like that. Right. So I am a firm believer that if you really want to help kids to learn critical thinking skills, the best place to start is with all that fun, spooky stuff that they're already obsessed with, right? They love this stuff. So start there and, start by teaching them about, questions and evidence. Questions and evidence is really the first place to start. Socratic questions like, how do you know that? Why would we think that means that? What's the best evidence that there is? Start by asking those kinds of questions. And then once they get some evidence, thinking through, well, how good is the evidence? Is this really evidence for or against? And helping them to kind of use sort of a scale. On my website, I have a worksheet with a scale, the evidence scale, where kids can write evidence for and against a claim. And if you use something like that with with a claim like a Bigfoot or something,
Right.
you know, kids will be engaged because they love thinking and talking about that sort of stuff.
Right.
But they'll also be able to use their skeptical brains to start to think about evidence. And as far as fallacies and things like that go, there are some people that think that, you know, we really shouldn't be introducing those kinds of things to kids, like they can't get it. I don't really think that that's so. I think that kids can get those things, but they need to be kind of embedded within something else that they're learning, and they need to be part of, like, so in the books, I will talk about like cognitive dissonance, and I introduce concepts to kids that are psychology concepts. And I'll use the names, I'll use the proper names, and I'll talk about those things, and I'll introduce them to kids, but I'll introduce them in the context of a story. So the concept makes sense and it's concrete for them.
Right.
But if you just try to teach them the concept without it being in a story or without it meaning anything,
they'll just
then
lose it.
they can't get it. Yeah.
Okay. Great. That's great advice. This is a fun show.
Yeah,
I
it
have
was.
really
It
enjoyed
was a lot
talking
of
to you.
Good information.
Yeah.
Great information, and you're very easygoing. See, I told you it wouldn't be so bad, right?
This was pretty fun, I gotta say. I
Yeah.
had a good time.
Good.
Glad. Yeah, and thank you again for staying up so late for us, and I'm glad tomorrow is Saturday. Or
Well,
today
it's
for
Saturday
you
for
is
him
Saturday.
already.
Me too.
The sun will be coming up soon, right? We still have sleet pelting on the windows here. I don't want to leave yet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so I'm going to get through some announcements. So hang out for a little bit, just chill, and then once we close the show, we can chat after the show's over for a couple minutes, and then I won't keep you too long because I know it's late. But for everyone else, thank you for hanging out. Remember, every Friday night it's 8 o'clock Eastern and 5 Pacific. We do the Skeptical Help Bar. Once a month, we do another show called Three Tortured Souls, and that is the first Wednesday of every month. I don't know what the next show is. Let me look it up real quick. So that will be April 5th. Oh, my birthday.
Oh.
My birthday is the next show, and I'm hosting. So send me a present. For the next events, let's see. This March 18th from 2 to 3:30 p.m., there is a webinar called How I Spent My Lockdown by Susan Gerbic. You guys should know her. She's been on the show a couple times. She's going to be recounting activism against grief, vampires, and more. Pretty much what she did during the pandemic. She'll be doing that. I'll have some information later on the website, but if you want to know a little bit more or the link, go to Susan Gerbic or I think it's abouttime.com. I think that's her website.
Yeah, About Time. Yeah.
And there's more information there. May 12th to 14th, I will be at the Rochester Parafest, which is in Rochester, New York, only about an hour away. We're going to be setting up booths. Both Donna and I will be setting up. I'll have my Skeptical Help booth, which looks like this, and she will have her Lucky Tiki Creations, and she'll be selling, and I'll be skepticking.
Skepticking.
So that's what I do.
I'll probably be selling some skeptical wear too.
Yeah, skeptic maybe. We'll see. May 19th to 21st is the Pennhurst Paracon. That's in Pennsylvania. We'll be down there set up. I know we're going to set up. I think we're setting up.
I hope so. I don't. Yeah, I got to get more information.
July 14th to 16th is the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which is a paranormal conference, but it goes to a good cause. It supports a lot of like kids with cancer, wounded warriors, and stuff like that. It really is awesome. We'll be down there for the weekend. I'm not going to set up. I don't think, Donna, you're not setting up. I'm going to be part of a discussion panel, and I'll be roaming around just, randomly
causing trouble,
because that seems to be what I do every year. It's like once a year. Every time I go there, somebody wants to fight me. I don't know why, but and then lastly, November 4th and 5th is the New Jersey Para Unity Expo, and we will be set up there. We'll be staying there for the weekend, hanging out, and that's usually a really good turnout. And we have a lot of people that come up to the booth and ask questions, which is good. I love engaging with people, ask your questions. We can talk about it, have civil conversations about beliefs or gadgets or whatever, you know, and we can talk about it. It's really fun. With that, I think that's about it.
Yep, we're good.
Right? We're good.
Mm-hmm.
No more questions.
Nope.
So with everyone else, everyone watching, please have a great weekend. Stay safe and enjoy it. And remember, never stop learning. I'll see you later.
Bye, guys.